Okie dokie. This documentary is called The Dimming, and this will be in the description, so you could go check it out for yourself. Take this documentary for what it's worth. I mean, it's good information on here in regards of analysis of trails, and I think that is extremely important. And I take my hats off to Dane, even though I'm a bit sketchy for what information he's presenting, but at the same time, he has got a laboratory up into the sky, taken test results of the trails that have been laid or the persistent trails and found out that they do have heavy metals. But does that mean every single trail we see in the sky, a persistent trail in the sky, means that it's got heavy metals? Well, according to my books here, we can track trails back all the way from World War II. I'm going to show you some video footage of that. But let's just play this small clip of World War II Allied bombers flying across Dover into Germany. And you get to see beautiful Dover. Oh, I remember this chemtrail video I shot this year. Pay attention to the disbursement that is coming out of the aircraft compared to this.
In regard to the condensation trail narrative, many refer back to the trails left by World War II bombers as proof that we are only seeing condensation trails in our skies. But geoengineeringwatch.org found on military archives film footage, which we posted, of World War II B-17s at altitude turning off a sprayed dispersion. We know that climate engineering was deployed immediately after World War II, so testing was absolutely ongoing. Clearly, these bombers were used for beta testing. Film footage proves it.
Let's just go back again, just so you can see the trails being laid. So this, they would say, oh, this is proof that chemtrails exist all the way back in the 1940s. But to be honest with you, I don't see any nozzles connected to these aircraft. Okay, I don't see any nozzles. It looks like this is actually coming from the jet engine itself. And remember, these are propellers. These are not actually jet aircraft in regards of jet propulsion. These are propellers. Okay, so you have to take that in consideration. Look at it. It's a bit like the video I showed earlier. Okay. According to Dane Winkton, this is some sort of test footage during or after World War II. And I can prove this is World War II footage because I found the original documentary. And I'm going to show you a clip of it now. And then you tell me whether or not who's telling the truth. So again, check out the dimming if you want to have a little look in regards of solar radiation management. Bear this in mind, geoengineeringwatch.org. Go check them out. Again, link in the description. This here is the original documentary where Dane Winkton has got this footage from. This is called The Memphis Belle, A Story of Flying Fortress. That's a nice name, isn't it? Flying Fortress. And this is the documentary that came out, published date of 1944. So this was a year before the war's end. And this was a documentary all about aircraft. And you can actually see it here. This film is a war documentary produced by one of the Hollywood's. This was created by William Whaler, I believe how you pronounce that, and he joined the Air Force Film Unit and recorded sightings and sounds of the last mission of a B-17 bomber known as Memphis Belle, named after the girlfriend of the pilot. Oh, that's quite nice. So you got a bit of backstory to that. So this is a real documentary. Now I'm going to play the clip of what Dane Winkton has shown, but he's only taken little clips and swindled it his own little way. So this is the clip where Dane Winkton shows that these trails were actually spraying something in the sky. It's a couple of minutes long, but you get to see the full clip. Listen to the narrator, okay? This is extremely important. And also mention about the stratosphere as well, okay? Because that is very important.
This will be the most beautiful view in the world. Higher and higher. Climbing to reach your best operational altitude, 25,000 feet. 5 miles straight up. So high you can't be seen from the ground with the naked eye. so high that after 1 minute without oxygen, you lose consciousness. After 20 minutes, you're dead. From now to the target, you go about your routine duties, plot your course, check your equipment, and wait. And think.
Okay, it's coming up. The clip's coming up.
Higher and colder. Temperature 40 degrees, below zero. Take off your glove and you loosen fingers. You look out at the strange world beyond. Reflections in plexiglass, like nothing you ever saw before, outside of a dream.
Watch the trails. I just got to pause it to explain the aircraft. It's shown it taken from the ground, and they're filming the crew going higher and higher up into the stratosphere, around about 25,000 feet. And this is where chemtrails are sprayed because it's at that altitude. Because it's a cruising altitude, is where there's like less turbulence. But as you can see now, the trails are just about to form. You see, it's very, very faint, just very, very faint as they keep climbing up to the stratosphere.
Higher and higher into the lifeless stratosphere, until the exhaust of the engines mixing with the cold, thin air condenses and streams the heavens with vapor trails. To the men in the ships, they're far from beautiful, for they point like beckoning fingers to the formation, signposts in the sky for the enemy to spot us.
1944.
For these bombers to accomplish their mission, a plan is needed.
Okay. So there is the original clip from what Dane Winton was saying, that this was a spraying program, which proves that bombing formations were actually spraying this dispersants in the atmosphere. But according to this documentary that came in 1944, you know, we're talking about 60 years, or sorry, even like 40 odd years before chemtrails were even known. It's saying that these are condensation trails. So who am I supposed to believe here? I mean, look at that. Okay, this is the problem I'm having with this, with trails in the sky, because trails have been going on for a long, long period of time. And I understand Dane Winton, he's done tests for trails, and he shows that in the laboratory results. Okay, fair enough. That's absolutely fair. You know, he's done something, but for him to show this footage and only taking little certain sections and says, oh, this proves that there is a spraying program going on, or some sort of test of a aerosol program. When if you just go back to the original documentary, it's saying that these are condensation trails. So it just doesn't look good. I watched it and I thought, okay, well, you're saying that these propeller aircraft, you know, like I said, these are not jet aircraft that, you know, the commercial airlines that we have today. You know, these are propellers. So where's the spray nozzles in this? This is a bombing formation. They were actually to bomb Germany. So where is this aerosol dispersants coming from? And this is the problem I'm having. I'm not denying chemtrails. It's just I found this odd. I just found this. Look, hang on a minute. You've just taken this clip. You've cut out all the audio from the original documentary, and then you swindled it a different way to say, "Oh no, actually, this is an actual spraying program." That doesn't look good for me. I'm sorry. That just does not look good. And you're probably saying, "Well, there's no evidence for contrails." This is a meteorological handbook for pilots and navigations. Look at the date, 1942. It's from World War II. Look. Condensation trails formed by aircraft, and it has a whole entire science behind it of dense trails and thin trails. Looking through my vast array of books I've got on cloud formations, you do have trails that pop up now and then. But this is not like massive trails in the sky, which we're going to get to a little bit later. These are small trails, as you can see. So this is just an example of the books I've got on cloud formations. And it does mention here that these are contrails. Specifically this picture here. that came from a book that is from 1968. So this was taken in sometime in the 60s, and look at it, it just looks just like chemtrails. However, it's not like a thick chemtrail, but if you look at the bottom picture here, that is a big, thick trail. Even that bit there, you can see. This was a halo, and you can see the faint trails that was taken in the 50s. This was taken in the 70s, as you can see. And it does mention in the description, this is the reason why I put the collage together, is because it's mentioned trails, but they're talking about condensation trails. And one thing I need to talk about is this is a misconception of, I think, where information is coming from. But I hate to use the word fact check because I think that's more like a way of like debunking things. I mean, I'm not coming across as a debunker. This is not the aim of this video. It's just that I wanted to know whether or not trails have happened before. I bought the books from decades ago, and I can see these trails are happening a long time ago. Whether or not they look like the same trails that they are now, how do we know whether or not it's a chemtrail or something natural like a condensation trail? And the other misconception that the chemtrail community keep on putting forward is that a contrail is what disappears within a few seconds or to a minute, and a chemtrail is what persists in the sky. But the books here that suggest that dense trails, big trails here you can see in the sky, they can last for several hours, even to the whole day, depending on the level of humidity. And is talking about this in books that are, back in the 40s and 50s. But someone who believes in chemtrails will say, no, no, that's wrong science. I'm like, well, yeah, but how do you know that? Have you done any research to find out whether or not it's actually true or not? I understand why people don't agree with mainstream media or science or mainstream science, especially what happened during the pandemic and COVID. Well, the scamdemic, I would call it. I totally understand, guys. Honestly, I wouldn't believe anything the mainstream media say. I wouldn't believe. It's hard to trust people in this day and age, especially in 2024. But at the same time, am I supposed to rule out these books that were written by people who study the weather? There's a great book I've got here. It's called Atmosphere, Clouds, Rain, Snow, and Storms. This photograph at the bottom, and that one, this is from this book here. The author of this book actually are meteorologists. They study the weather, but the chemtrail community don't. They're just, I'm sorry to say this, but they're kind of stuck in an echo chamber. So in this same book, it actually talks about weather modification in here, and it talks about Operation Cirrus. Oh, I think I get that in there. And this kind of reminds me of what CCT is, and this is one aspect of geoengineering that the chemtrail community don't really talk about, called cirrus cloud thinning. So CCT is just another way of cloud seeding. Here is a quick diagram for you to see of what cloud seeding requires. And normally what it is either getting like a Cessna, not necessarily commercial airlines, but like these small Cessna, I believe that's what they call these aircraft, small little planes, and they've got flares on the ends of them. There's loads of videos you can see online. And what they would do is, because I've seen videos on it, they'll fly above the cloud and they'll either shoot what it says here, silver iodide, or sometimes dry ice. I mean, the early experiments were dry ice, but they're using silver iodide now. And this helps the ice nuclei, sorry, this is really small, can't see, that can fall as rain or snow and steal moisture from large hail particles. So yeah, that's what silver iodide does. And obviously that reacts with the nuclei of the clouds and therefore makes it rain. I know there's some techniques that using salt because salt absorbs moisture. But at the same time, if you're spraying salt in the atmosphere and it bloody rains and that salt goes on any plants, as a gardener, I'd know that will literally dry out the plant itself. I don't think they're doing that technique. So I think I'm guessing if there are doing cloud seeding programs, but like I mentioned, CCT, they would use silver iodide as a way for cloud seeding. I mean, I mentioned before that Dubai can make it rain whenever it wants. I mean, the mainstream media, some news outlets dismissed that. But Dubai had massive flooding continuously. And even I'm not too sure what organization, but and they were admitting that they were actually doing cloud seeding projects in Dubai on a regular basis. This is the desert, for Christ's sake. This is, it doesn't rain. And it had the amount of flooding. And I think France, Spain, Germany, all these other places got affected because you think if they're doing cloud seeding in one area, for instance, they did it in Dubai, sure, it may rain in Dubai, but you don't know how long that cloud or the rain is going to last for. So here's another cloud seeding disaster that's on record, and this is called the Plymouth disaster of 1952. So the backstory of this, in August the 15th and 16th of 1952, this tragedy of events primarily affected the village of Plymouth in North Devon, England. Severe storms brought heavy rain and resulted in 229 millimeters, that's 9 inches of rain falling within 24 hours on the already saturated soil of Exmoor. You can see here in the description, it destroyed over 100 buildings, washed away 38 cars, and 34 people tragically lost their lives and made many people homeless. And what people don't realize is that the village of Lynmouth, the public started to notice these planes flying. And one lady was saying that it looked like something purple was coming out of the plane. I mean, and eventually turned the whole cloud purple. And there were various speculations whether or not the military were actually doing experiments. So here we have this article from devonlive.com, and it reads, Lynmouth flood disaster. RAF Rainmaker experiment blamed for Devon's worst ever flood disaster. On the anniversary of the Lynmouth tragedy that claimed 34 lives, we look at compelling evidence that scientists were carrying out cloud seeding experiments. Operation Cumulus was the name of the experiment carried out by the RAF and an international team of scientists in August of 1952. On this day of August 15th, 1952, the cloud seeding experiments came to a sudden end, official documents have confirmed. I personally haven't read through the documents, but I wouldn't be surprised if an experiment like that did take place. And of course, the RAF ain't going to bloody admit that they killed 24 people and destroyed a whole town. Of course, they're not going to admit it, but we have documents that allegedly prove that there is evidence of cloud seeding projects going on at that same time. Here we are. This is what I was talking about. In August 1952, eyewitnesses describe a purple-black cloud that was accumulating over Exmoor. Some even said the threatening skies had a weird greenish tint, and more than one person observed the cloud moving north Devon and east Somerset were moving in a completely opposite direction. So I was mentioning about that purple cloud. The disaster was officially termed the Hand of God event. But in 2001, the BBC unearthed new evidence from previous classified governmental files suggesting that a team of international scientists working with the RAF was experimenting with artificial rainmaking in southern England in the same week and could possibly have been implicated. Squadron leader Len Oatley, who was working with Operation Cumulus, told the BBC that they were jokingly referring to the rainmaking experiments as Operation Witch Doctor. The Ministry of Defence has categorically denied acknowledgement of any cloud seeding experiments taking place in the UK during the early August 1952. Yeah, of course they bloody would. But new documents suggest that Operation Cumulus was going on between August the 4th and August the 15th, 1952, and it was stopped abruptly on the day of the Lynmouth disaster. This was the Lynmouth disaster of 1952 that took the lives of 34 people and destroyed a town just for cloud seeding experiment. And this is a very, very old technique. But chemtrails or solar radiation management is that you're actually spraying aerosols to create clouds. But CCT, what that is that you're having existing cirrus clouds, which are way above 15,000 feet, 25,000 feet. They're the high, big whisper clouds. I put some pictures on here so you can have a look at. This is what cirrus clouds is. And these are naturally formed clouds that can get bigger and bigger. This is all natural. But CCT, cirrus cloud thinning, works the same as what cloud seeding is. You're just seeding cirrus clouds. And that's another form of geoengineering. Check this out. This is from the governmental website, and it references governmental grants for modeling environmental responses to solar radiation management. This is unflipping believable. You've got people my age who are struggling, who wants to start with a new business, can't even get grants. So the summary here, applying funding to carry out climate modeling to understand the impact of solar radiation management, SRM, techniques if implemented at scale. That's the word, if implemented at scale. So you must be based at a UK research organisation eligible for Natural Environment Research Council, otherwise known as NERC funding, a role that meets the individual eligibility requirements. The full economic cost of your projects depends on the theme as follows. So you can see how much they're willing to put in money into this. So the FEC, which is the full economic cost, they will fund out 80% of that project. So 4 projects will be funded up to in the beginning of April of 2025. Keep your eyes to the skies in that case. And the FEC, which is the full economic cost, will fund 3,365,000. You know, it's in the millions for modeling solar radiation management. But this is the thing, this bit here. 4 projects will be funded for up to 54 months to the beginning of April of 2025. That's where I will be looking up. Well, I always look up anyway. So here we have the UK government giving out grants for modeling solar radiation management. I don't see the chemtrail community talking about this, even though I do bash it to a certain degree. Start application. Should we start application? See what happens. Find a grant. I'll monitor the bloody skies. Give me that 3.3 million. Hell yeah. This research will model how key aspects of the Earth systems would respond to solar radiation management, approaches to Earth control surface temperatures, if implemented at scale. The program will deliver independent cutting-edge environmental science through modeling and potentially laboratory work to improve that modeling. The program will not support outside research. The research will deliver risk-to-risk analysis, which will consider the determinal impact of Earth heating under the climate scenarios versus the response of SRM, so the radiation management, is deployed. You have no idea how many times it took me to say this. Themes. One project will fund under each other theme. All research should be modeling and analysis unless otherwise specific to the theme details. No outdoor experiments, research, or deployment activities will be supported. So it's all done by computers, I guess. So no one's actually looking up at the sky. No outdoor experiments, research, or deployment activities will be supported. Why? Why is that? Are we just using computer-based stuff to analyze solar radiation management? Or is it so bloody toxic you don't want to go outside, so you best stay in a contained bubble so we don't get the bloody nanoparticles we're breathing in? Development and improvement representation of the key stratospheric impacts, such as a large-scale heating, impacts on stratospheric dynamics, and impacts on stratospheric ozone. Explore the impact of SIA, which is stratospheric aerosol injection, versus risk assessment on a large-scale surface climate for key issues. These may include, for the example of a large-scale circulation pattern, key modeling of environmental vulnerabilities, extremes in precipitation, net primary productivity, sea level rise, coastal inundations, surface UV radiation, the xerosphere, hurricane frequency and intensity, and near-term tipping elements as appropriate. Explore the impacts of termination of SIA, including the phase-out of strategic in range of plausible future mitigation situations. This is what. Okay. Themes for novel SRM techniques. Your research project under the theme should cover the modeling of at least 3 solar radiation management approaches and should examine the potential climate impacts for such deployments of various scenarios. Your choice of scenarios should be fully justified and should include the range of future temperatures increase, including 1.5 degrees and with overshoot of the target. This should include assessment of the plausibility and scalability of techniques that target each solar or terrestrial radiation. These may include the examine cirrus cloud thinning, talked about CCT, marine sky brightening, mixed phase regime cloud thinning, never heard of that one before, or surface albedo modification. Examination of the use of materials other than SO2 for SIA, solar radiation management, and sea salt of MCB. Development and scientific analysis of approach that target regional rather than global climate change. This is given a whole background here. I'm going to leave this in description, but this is bloody damning evidence that this is on the UK governmental website. And they say they want to fund this. And they're saying projects must start by April 2025. So we've got less than a year. Not like they've been doing it now. But here we have, which I've been reading through. And go ahead and read it for yourself. The UK government is putting out grants for modelling solar radiation management. And what is solar radiation management? Chemtrails. So in conclusion, at the moment, before I show the video or videos of the trails in the sky that's been happening since spring and summer this year, to sort of backtrack of what's actually been going on. And what I'm trying to do is put some rational conclusion of what these trails are actually doing and whether or not they're blocking out the sun, how consistent they are spraying throughout the day, how long is it blocking out the sun, does it block out the sun, does these trails have effect on weather? I'm asking all these sort of questions and then applying it to what I'm actually seeing today. And by the end of the year, what I want to do is have an overall conclusion of what chemtrails, all these trails in the sky, actually do to the weather or modify the weather or block out the sun, which is the whole point of chemtrails, isn't it? It's like there's so many genres associated with chemtrails. Primarily is to block out the sun, but they say, oh no, it's to poison us. I'm thinking, well, in that case, if there's there to poison us, surely the pilots are poisoning their own families, are poisoning everything, unless the pilots are not aware of that. But there's not a lot of pilots that come forward. There are a few that tend to disguise their identity and blank their voices out. But when these pilots come forward and confirm that chemtrails actually exist, they're just regurgitating what is already out there in the chemtrail community. It's nothing new. All this information can be tracked back to the late 90s. And this is the other thing. If solar radiation management has been going on since the late 90s, I'm pretty sure there's other technologies that they can improve to block out the sun or to manipulate the weather, which leads on to this. Did you know that these clouds are man-made? Did you not know that? Well, according to the chemtrail or truth movement, they have this technology now to create cloud cover. Or is that some sort of harp cloud that people are misconception as billow clouds? Makes you think, why are they spraying chemtrails when they can create cloud cover like this? Oh, here's another one. This is a typical example. This is one thing I keep on seeing being floated about on various social media sites to do with solar radiation management. Not denying that chemtrails can actually block out the sun, but the halos we see, people think that this is a relatively new phenomenon. So the description here, what this chap here says, saw many chems crossing in front of the sun early here in Rochester. Looked up and saw this on the way back from shopping. I never saw these sun halos when I was younger, and I've always looked at the sky as a huge interest into weather. This, which I see a lot of. So someone who's done this has actually spent the day I presume, spent the day outside looking up in the sky and tracking every single hour how many trails are in the sky and what it actually does. So as you can see here, yeah, you got small little trails, and then by 12, this is just going. I'm assuming this is in correlation to the timeline. And yeah, I've seen that many times. In fact, the video I've done beginning of the year sees that, and it will produce these halos and that sundog there, of course, because what chemtrails is mimicking is cirrus clouds, and in that cirrus cloud family, you get something called cirrostratus, which is a naturally formed mist that can actually. It looks like a misty day, like everything's like whited out, and that is a natural phenomena. And I just want to show just a couple of examples of this. So what I have here, I've taken photographs from my vintage books. This is just some of them. Bear in mind, I've got over 20 of them that all have this halo effect. So these 3 photographs here were taken from the same book that describe these halo effects as a natural forming cloud because it's so high up, way above 15,000 feet to even up to 25,000 feet. It can produce this white halo effect that people misinterpret as actually being sprayed by chemtrails. Looking through my books, you can actually see this is actually a natural phenomena. I mean, you could say that chemtrails have been going on for a long period of time, way before the late 90s, and for sure, I'm not ruling that out. But pay attention to this. Was taken. It says that there. Look, I'm going to zoom in. Look at the halo effect. Do you know when that was taken? And it says it in this book here. So this photograph was taken on June the 23rd, 1909 at 1:23 p.m. at South Kensington. And what it's saying here, eventually the alto cumulus passed nearly out of the field of the camera, as can be seen in the illustration. In this page, whilst the cirrostratus was still blowing up. And this is what you will get, the white sheen. Yes, okay, chemtrails can do that, but they're not doing it every day where I live. And I've got videos of this white sheen, which produces this halo effect, which is all to do with cirrostratus. And you can read the descriptions here on how these halos are formed. But this is 1910. That's from 1968. And these are from the 80s. Again, here we have that's from the 80s, the 70s. Like the white sheen here, this can form naturally. And again, the halo. So this is from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. So I'm going, right, what's going on here? Who am I supposed to believe? But we've got, again, backtrack record of these halos. But people like me when I was a kid, and I would agree with the guy who put the original photograph, I'm going to show you now. I never saw these sun halos when I was younger. Sure, neither did I. But at the same time, we have, again, photographic proof that these halos have been happening before. Sure, again, I'm not ruling out chemtrails can do that because they're mimicking cirrus clouds. Cirrostratus cloud is what actually blanket the sun. I mean, you can't say that don't look like bloody chemtrails. Okay. You gotta admit, you know what I mean? I mean, look, I'm not denying chemtrails at all, but when you see footage like this, you go, hold on a minute, this looks just like chemtrails. I mean, it kind of sounds like I've come across as a debunker or skeptic. For me to actually buy these books and just asking the simple question and then researching the simple question is whether or not these trails have happened before. And you can see a clear example that they have done. This photograph here was taken over my area, and you can see the amount of trails that are in the sky. But also, is there any existing lingering clouds like cirrus clouds? Because what chemtrails technically become, it turns into cirrostratus, a cirrus cloud, basically. And what I'm seeing a lot on, especially chemtrail Facebook page, is that people are getting confused of what cirrus clouds look like and what a trail when it's spread out looks like. Basically, what chemtrails technically turn into is just cirrostratus clouds, which is when we tend to get like the halo around the sun. And this is where that same altitude is, which is around about above 20,000 feet. So here's a typical example right here. You can see the cirrus cloud, and then you see the trails sort of in between. And that's because the way that I look at it is that, according to this science here, is that there's moisture in the atmosphere in that main immediate area, or humidity. And that's why the trails are persistent. I mean, normally I find these trails that persist, you see some sort of remnants of cirrus cloud in its wake. Another example is, I can try and grab this on the time-lapse camera, is that it'll be a clear sky, and then you start seeing trails, and I go, okay, well, there's trails, they're very, very faint. They're so faint, but will progressively get more denser, which means more thicker. And then I go, okay, well, there's also going to be cirrus clouds going to be forming. And the next thing you know, you've got cirrus clouds starting to form. And that's one thing I've noticed with my time-lapse camera. I mean, for instance, today you started to see these trails in the sky. And then I thought, right, okay, let's just carry on, look at the sky for the remainder of the day and see what these trails do. And it turned out to be a lovely day. So we had small little trails in the morning that technically didn't really block out the sun at all. It really didn't, but it turned out to be a nice day. But someone in the chemtrail community would post that picture and then get really, really upset because, her day's ruined because the sun got blocked out for her. And it's like, well, hold on a minute. You're not really thinking, what are these trails are doing? I'm not asking you to stay outside, look up in the sky, but you need to think logically. Okay, how many trails are persistent throughout the day? Are they actually blocking out the sun? How frequently are they blocking out the sun? For the whole year, this is the whole year analysis I've been doing, and then I can make some sort of conclusion. I mean, yes, in the beginning of the year, you can see the 2 videos I uploaded. You can see there was a lot of trails that week. In fact, that couple of weeks, in that short period of time, yes, there was a lot of trails in the sky, but did it really block out the sun? This here, or if I just see trails in the sky with no cirrus attached to it, then I go, okay, right, there's something not quite right, because in technical terms, when you look at it, if you got trails like this with no cirrus clouds or cirrus stratus, naturally forming cirrus stratus, I should say, then you know that's most likely probably been sprayed on purpose. But this was taken in the beginning of this year, and it was horrendously bad. But here's I just want to show you this small little trail here is not going to be big enough to block out the sun. Now this here, that's part of cirrus, which is this. Okay, that's cirrus. And here's another example. Cirrus looks like whispers in the sky that almost like hook-like clouds. But you can see this trail is very, very dense. And I know for a fact these trails are not going to last long. But you can see these whispers here. That's cirrus. Okay, so when you find trails in the sky, you will see cirrus, and I've got absolutely tons of video footage of that. Again, this was taken. I think I was on the way to Glastonbury. But yeah, the whole sky is covered in trails. No cirrus clouds at all. No cirrus. And I think I did a video on this actually. Yeah, it was quite bad. So again, I am not denying chemtrails at all. It's just I've done research to find out whether or not the trails have been happening before, and they're the same trails that we're seeing today. Not as much as what we're seeing now. Bear in mind, we have, quadruple the amount of people on the planet. I mean, if you have a look at how many planes are in the sky in any given minute, it's a lot. Okay. So you need to think, okay, back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, there weren't that many people on the planet compared to what it is now. So, of course, you ain't going to see as much trails. Tell within time, this will block out the sun. Not as much as cumulus clouds, though. Again, here is more I've taken the beginning of the year. Here we've got a video here. So, as you can see, no clouds. And I remember that was supposed to be a clear blue sky day. I think, where is this? I think it was on the way to Glastonbury. It was that week. It was so bad. Filled, the whole entire sky was covered. But see, no cirrus clouds. And that makes me go, okay, well, hold on a minute. That is a detailed sign whether or not something can actually be sprayed or not. Again, so as the day, so this was on the same day. I'm going to show you. Okay, that there. See that little trail? Okay. This was on the same day. So as the morning came into lunchtime, but you can see the trails are starting to get more denser. Oh yeah, this, right, okay. So you've seen in the beginning of the episode of me filming those balloons. So I tend to look at like old balloon pictures from back in the day. And I started to see these trails and I'm going, hold on a minute, what's going on there? So this is back in the 80s. This is 81. So again, these are the same trails of what we're seeing. I'm going, okay, is solar radiation management, chemtrails have been going on a lot longer, and I believe that they have. But when it came to the public eye in the late 90s, that's when things start to kick off. But I reckon they've probably been going on a lot longer. But whether or not these trails are actually to block out the sun is another thing. So again, this is 1981. Oh, that's my favorite. This is another thing. This is according to the mainstream media. They've added this into the new cloud. Obviously, there's many different types of cloud, and I know that because I've got a book here from the 1930s that details every single cloud formation, but except this. I cannot find this phenomena in any of my books. This is a new phenomena because I remember back, God, when I was in my college, that's been like 2008. I remember there was a news report that had this in the sky and people thought it was actually a UFO. But I can't find this anywhere in my vintage books. Let's bring up the mainstream media explanation for this. Right. So according to Microsoft Bing, which by the way is fantastic if you want to find old school conspiracy videos, it tends to block out the algorithm. It's bloody brilliant. I've been finding like a bunch of chemtrail videos from like 2008 and 9 that are pretty much deeply buried into the YouTube archive. But this 4-streak hole, let's bring up some photographs of it. So this is relatively new. This is not in any of my books at all. I did see this year. In fact, here's a little video of it. You can see that has this phenomenal. And I believe there's a few explanations for it. And I believe is that the aircraft is actually, so if you've got the cloud layer, sorry, I can't even see myself. Got the cloud layer here and the plane is actually going like that underneath it. And basically is creating like this whole effect in the cloud. Now this cloud here, I'm going to probably get it wrong. Let's bring this up. It's quite a nice one. Altocumulus. And let's see if I'm right. Hold on. Hang on, let's get me a bit bigger. That's what she said. This book here, Cloud Readings for Pilots, that came out in 1943. Okay, this is how far back we're going. 1943. Okay, see that? The ripple effect. Altocumulus. A layer of patches composed of laminar or rather flattened global mass. The smallest elements of the regular arranged layers being faintly small and thin or without shading. I'm never reading again. This is terrible, absolutely terrible. But yeah, you can see I'm using AI for now if I've got to read anything. There we go. See all the little stripes and patterns. Let's bring this up a bit here. Kind of looks like it. So I've got cloud formations that came out from 1944. There we go. So the chemtrail community will say that these are HARP clouds. See the ripple effects? But this is from 1944. It's pretty much the same and nothing to do with HARP clouds. But who knows what HARP clouds can actually look like, except for this meme here. Here is an example of what I was talking about earlier. I see a lot of this on Chemtrail Facebook page, and it's photographs like this. I find the information that has been presented, nothing makes sense, and I don't think people have a full grasp of what they're talking about. Now, I don't want to come across as a snobby prick, excuse my French, But I've learned so much about cloud formations and how clouds are formed, not by the BBC, not by the mainstream media, but from my vintage books that I bought. And I got a heck of a lot of them. And it's the same science of what they're saying back then, what it is now. But the Met Office has added new cloud formations to their category, which is a bit odd. That's what I find a bit odd. Regardless of that, I'm seeing more photos of this. Now, if I showed that to a chemtrail believer or someone in the chemtrail community, they would say, "Oh, no, that's chemtrail spread out." That's not. This is what is called cirrus clouds, and this is what people are getting confused by, because sure, it looks like chemtrail spread out, but you can tell when a chemtrail spread out because within an hour you can kind of see the distinct line, and you can see where it's hit the wind shear, where it's actually spread out. And eventually, within a couple of hours, you can see that white sheen that blocks out the sun. That is nothing new, by the way, that white sheen. You know, you can trace that back through bloody decades. But that's what chemtrails can mimic, that. But they're confusing chemtrails being spread out compared to this, which is cirrus clouds. Okay, I'm going to bring out this book, Cloud Formations, again, from 1944. But yeah, this lady thinks that this is man-made on purpose. Okay, let's go back to the top photograph here. Let's zoom in. Let's zoom in this photograph. Okay, check out those whispers, which is known as cirrus, part of the cirrus family. So what we have here is, this is a typical example of what cirrus is. So you can compare the two. Okay, this is a naturally formed cloud that forms naturally in the atmosphere. That kind of looks like chemtrails, doesn't it? Especially that photograph there. Kind of looks like that. Okay. And this is 1944. If I show that to the chemtrail community, they would immediately think, oh no, that's sprayed on purpose. But this is 1944. Look. I just don't see. I just don't see anyone in the chemtrail community do research like this to find whether or not these clouds are actually what they say, that these clouds are man-made on purpose, whether we can track them back. But look, again, we have the halo here. But I just think people have the misconception of they think that big puffy clouds is the only cloud that they know of. They haven't really looked into whether or not these clouds have actually happened before, and whether or not the clouds that they think that is man-made could possibly be something natural. And I understand the chemtrail community don't believe in the mainstream media. I don't believe anything the government or mainstream media say. But again, I just can't really rule out when you've got photographic evidence to prove that these clouds have been in the sky for a very long time. But the chemtrail community will say, no, this has all been done on purpose. And I think, okay, why has it been done on purpose? Why is solar radiation management happening in 1944? Here's another one. Another lovely summer day. Not taken 6 a.m. today. Angry face. Why? This is clouds. This is another thing, right? I'm just asking the questions. What is the point of them spraying chemtrails when they can do this? If this was created on purpose, why are they spending billions or potentially millions on solar radiation management when they can create clouds like this? And this is what I found out with my time-lapse videos. This was taken 6 in the morning, but within 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, it's now clear sky. So I'll be interested to find out this lovely lady. I'm sure she's a lovely lady, but love, trust me, don't get angry. There's so much more important things in life to worry about. But looking up in the sky and getting angry because you see clouds, it's not good. There's nowhere to live, darling, honestly. Live life to the full. Life's too short. We're all eating a shit sandwich out here. One thing I find fascinating is harp clouds. That looks like a vagina. I'm sorry. So vagina cloud. Anyway, so mature. Right, this is what I want to talk about. This is harp clouds. I believe it's to manipulate the weather. But you see in my harp cloud video, and this is quite an impressive harp cloud video, that did it affect the weather afterwards? This is the thing you need to bear in mind. So I'm going to show the video now of the harp cloud that I've taken back this year. And by the end of the video, you will see my conclusion by the end of the day of what this harp cloud actually did. you need to think about this. Okay, you see these ripple effects in the sky. I mean, the truth community say that's down to HAARP clouds, but they're not really thinking, okay, what effect is it going to have on the weather? Is it going to affect the weather near me? Is it going to be raining? Is it going to be clear sky? We're going to have thunderstorms. You know, this is the other thing you need to think about, and whether or not it's going to actually affect the weather. But again, we have proof that these ripple effects have been happening for a very, very long time. In fact, I'm going to put a screenshot right here of all the ripple effects that we see in the sky for the past 80 years. So is that all of a sudden doesn't exist anymore? Is it all to do with HAARP clouds now? Is now HAARP facility and their beams actually creating this type of ripple effect? But what about the other 80 years? And has that just like gone away? Do you understand? It's like I just don't think people are getting a full grasp of what they're talking about. And as I'm doing research on whether or not to find these clouds or HAARP clouds have been happening before, I start to go, well, actually, you know, the chemtrail community or the truth movement are saying, no, this is done on purpose by HAARP facility. I'm like, but we have documentation and proof back, 80 years that this has been happening before. How do you know between the two or what is actually natural and what is man-made? So what I'm going to show you now is a video I'd taken in the beginning of the summer of this quite impressive HAARP cloud I've seen in the sky, or gravity wave cloud, or billow cloud, or whatever you want to call it. Heard of HAARP clouds, right? Check this out. Look at this. Look at that. How separated has gone. He's going to get his book out, get his wand out, innit? And it's definitely blocked out that sun, alright? Yes, you are right. I'm going to bring out my trusty book again. Cloud Reading for Pilots. That came out in, I've showed this many times, just to show you, that 1943. So it came out during World War II. Have a little look at this. How it's all filled the sky with this separation of the clouds, which is obviously blamed on HAARP clouds or gravity waves. Here's the book, okay? Right, look at that. Okay, 1943. This is the genuine book. This is not me taking the piss. Look, it's all got like handwritten stuff from, if it says there, 1975 on that bit. Even January 1944, look at that. So it's a genuine book. But here we have the separation clouds, which is named altocumulus. Have a little look. Boom. From this to that. Okay. Here's a picture of it. I'm going to scoop around as the best that I can, nice and slowly, so you can see what it's like throughout the sky. It's really impressive, it really is. But fortunately people don't really look up that much, don't they? But look at that, the whole sky is all in this ripple effect. Look at that. That area there is almost fading. Look at that over there as well. Is a better angle using the phone this time. Check this out. Oh, this book here, Cloud Studies in Colour, that came out in 1967, and this is just to show you that I'm not lying. 1967, okay? And in here are fantastic coloured photographs for all over the years. If I skip to page 19 and have a look at billow and waves, okay? Now look at these photographs here. But most importantly, these top ones, 61 and 62. Let's have a look at this one here, 61. Same sort of ripple effects. It's not the whole entire sky, but regardless, let's just have a little read and just see what this book says from 1967, okay? I'm not coming across as a debunker, I'm just doing research. This cloud is called altocumulus because there is no currents from the ground reaching it. It is losing heat by radiation into space from the top and gaining radiation from the ground below. It is also gaining much smaller amount of absorption from the sunshine. Because of this loss at the top and gaining heat from the bottom, it has become unstable. And the conversion is arranged into billows across the wind shear. But the motion within the cloudlets is very slow. The cloudlets move with the wind. But it's seriously impressive. And being a flipping tinfoil like conspiracy theorist, I'll go, oh, bloody harp again. Could be, it could be, but it is really striking. Yeah, it's definitely moving at a fast pace, isn't it? Yeah, it's awesome, isn't it? It really is a kind of a rarity to see it that big and spread out, isn't it, darling? Sorry, I'm talking to my cat. And I've got the time lapse, and we can have a look to see what Mr. Time Lapse does. Yeah, interesting. Some time has passed, and that is the remaining of the altostratus. Wrong once again. It is called altocumulus. Oh dear, I can never get it right. It's been quite interesting the past couple of hours. The time-lapse camera is going to show a vast majority of it. In fact, all of it, really. Yeah, we are back to clear blue skies. Beautiful. It's a little bit misty over here, but we're all good. We're all good. A few hours have passed. It's around about 10:30, and we have some Cirrus. I know what you're thinking. You're probably going, "Oh God, here we go. He's getting his bloody books out again. What a nerd." Let's see if we can find that now. Bear in mind, I've mentioned before, CCT, Cirrus Cloud Thinning, which I've mentioned before that this here is Cirrus. This is Cirrus. Now I'm just going to show you that this here has been seen before, okay? And this bit over here. So you got like the whispers, you can see. I'll zoom in so you can have a little look. Like the whispers there, okay? Almost like hook-like. It kind of looked like trails, but what this is through old books, not mainstream media, not BBC at the moment. This is like old books from here, from the 80s. Just have a little look at that, okay? I'll get my bloody head out of that way. Have a little look, okay? You see all the whispers there? And if you just have a little read, it's the ice crystal clouds that are present themselves. Oh, so I'm going to pause and read it. Ice crystal clouds that present themselves as varied shapes and forms in the colder than freezing levels are called cirrus. Except in the winter season, these clouds are found in high elevation. As the growing ice crystals become larger, they are heavier and fall earthwards. Through the streams of falling ice crystals generally evaporate while still in the high atmosphere. Such clouds are classified as belonging to group because they are generating precipitation. The strange distorted forms taken by wisps of falling crystals that constitute the cirrus clouds result from different wind speeds and directions in the various lower layers. Bloody hell, I'm not saying that again. Okay, it's just a comparison. I can't say or take people's word on Chemtrail Facebook page that this is sprayed on purpose. Because I know cirrus can actually form itself. But what's happened, because it gets bigger, it gets heavier, and therefore it drops, and that's how you get that hooks. And that's what it is. I've mentioned it on my previous videos as well. As you can see here, that's approaching quite quickly now. Okay. Let's just focus on that, 'cause that's quite detailed, because I need to talk about this. Okay, as you can see, the whispers. Have a little look at this. Right, this should be easy. Streams of ice crystals formed in supercooled cirrocumulus. The crystals are falling into the air that is moving at much higher velocity, causing the streams to develop. Have a little look at that. To that. I can't find something that's the exact, but you get the idea of, see over here, like the whispers that are going down. Oh, here's a better photo. Here we are. There we go. Look at that. That is pretty much that, isn't it, really, when you look at it? It could be CCT, cirrus cloud thinning. Because if you have a look here, just to prove what I'm talking about, cirrus covering the whole sky, and that's what it is. It's high altitude crystal clouds that are above 25,000 feet. And what happens is that obviously this gets a lot bigger, and then eventually it falls down and hits the jet stream, as you can see here. Classic example of jet stream cirrus covering the whole sky, and that's what's happening. So in a way, as you can see here, I know I sound a bit like a debunker, I'm just literally, you can see a trail being formed at the moment, see? The mainstream will say, okay, well, there's moisture in the atmosphere where the altitude of the plane is, which is performing a persistent trail, as you can see at the moment, because it's in that immediate area of the cirrus, see? That's what they say, okay? But again, they mentioned cirrus cloud thinning. They mentioned they have this technology. I mean, the BBC, I mean, take their word for it, but geoengineering is a $106 billion industry. And it's worldwide, and there's over 100 programs going on. So I'm definitely not ruling out geoengineering, 100%. Because that will block out the sun, won't it? So we do have a lot of cirrus. 10 minutes has passed, and you can see it's getting a lot bigger, because remember, the cirrus is actually falling because how big it's getting. Now here's a book I've shown before, Cloud Readings for Pilots, and this is from 1943, and just have a little look here, okay? Look. Pay attention to the picture. Look, okay? And if I zoom out and have a little look now, how far I can zoom out anyway, but the time-lapse camera will be able to pick it up. It's really starting to spread out now. Look at that. And that's that trail that was being laid. I mean that's not really going to block out the sun, is it? That trail, but this cirrus will. Shall we see? It's actually travelling in the direction of the sun. Sneeze. There we go. Yeah. It's report back in a few minutes. Have a little look. And again, we have another example. Where you see, buddy? Oh, there you are. Again, the purple underbelly. I think it's FedEx. I think it's the parcel company. I do see a lot of them. And it's left that little trail. And yeah, let's have a look at the cirrus. Hey. Let's just do a 360 pan of the sky. Pretty cool. This is a great example because you saw no longer than half an hour ago in that area there, we just had that small cirrus forming. And look at it now, it's absolutely covered the whole sky. This might produce like a small rainbow. You ever seen those like small patches of rainbow, or like sun dogs, I think they call it. I would have to admit, since analysing the skies properly for the past 2 years, the halo around the sun and the sundog, I believe what it's called. Yes, chemtrails can do that because it is basically mimicking this, isn't it? It's mimicking cirrus. This is what I keep saying. Chemtrails, it turns into cirrus because look, it's like a big blanket. Obviously, I'm talking about stratospheric aerosol injection or solar radiation management, which is basically that trail there. See that little trail? That's what that airplane not long ago produced. But we have all this cirrus, which I've showed in a book, and we know it's called cirrus. I mean, that book I showed you was from the 1940s. But what my point is that chemtrails produce this, which is technically cirrus, because as the trail is sprayed, it then gets bigger, gets heavier, then it drops. And this is where it hits the jet stream, or the wind shear in technical terms, and that's what makes it spread out, okay? So in a way, chemtrails is basically cirrus, just artificial. But yeah, I would honestly say the sun was really nice out when there was no clouds. And yeah, this cirrus has definitely made an effect on the temperature for a few degrees, 100%. Still can't look at the sun though. So yeah, going back to where it was, here's a little snapshot of it, not long ago. It looked like it was just forming in that area. Might be wrong, it might have been all this and it just got a bit bigger, but it looked very small from what I can observe. And bear in mind, the time-lapse camera is only observing a very small portion of the sky. Here it is, so you can see. It's only a very small portion. So yes, you see the trails form, but you don't know what's happening in the distance, because a persistent trail, chemtrails, will last for several hours. Of course they do. But you're not seeing the trails for several hours, are you? So who knows what it's doing? And this is why I check this, a satellite. I check it daily, so I shall have a little look at this now and be interested to see what it's doing. Yeah, I mean, obviously we have the cumulus here, but yeah, the temperature has dropped slightly since the cirrus has come over. So then we say, right, is this man-made or is this just natural? At this point I have absolutely no idea, but it shows in the book that this has happened before, and you have to take that in consideration. What was the point of the HAARP cloud? What did it do? What did it achieve? Did it affect the weather? Not really. In fact, it didn't at all.
But it did block out the sun.
And it's definitely blocked out that sun, alright. It was actually quite nice throughout the week. In fact, it was the hottest day of the year, just for one day, and that was it. It reached 30 degrees. But it didn't really have any effect afterwards, through my time-lapse video. In fact, it was quite a nice week. So, what was that HAARP cloud about? Or was it a HAARP cloud? Or was my book saying something different? That it was actually billow clouds, and it gives a more logical explanation of what these separation of the clouds are. As you can see through my research, the clouds have happened before, and you can see that. So what's the difference between back then to what it is now? You know, I think the reason why people believe in HAARP clouds is because the chemtrail community said so. And this is the other thing as well, this meme. You know, this is this is computer generated. Why are people believing in this? You thought I just had books on debunking chemtrails. Well, you're wrong. I also have this book by Weather 101, which is one of the worst written books I've ever had. Skip that. I also have this book here by Elena Freeland, Chemtrails Harp and the Full Spectrum Dominance of Planet Earth. I'm going to be reading through that. And also I have this book here, Chemtrails Confirmed by William Thomas. So yes, I do have books on chemtrails. Well, that can go. But yeah, these two are on the next agenda. So I will be going through chemtrails and like I said, I believe in chemtrails, but let's do a full analysis into it and we'll get back to you on a future episode. So yeah, this is just my conclusion. As you see, I've got more parts to come. I've got 7 parts actually. This is like a catch up from the spring to summer. Detailing the skies, having a little look and just having a rational conclusion. But there are days where it's very, very traily and we will look at that. In fact, I have a video I'm going to show you where trails formed and there's no flipping planes in the sky. It gets very, very strange. And I do debunk a few stuff that the mainstream media do say. And I do look at the other side. I do look at the chemtrail community. I know I bash the community because I think the community is in absolute disrepair. It's like nothing makes sense, really, when you really look at it. But am I denying chemtrails? No, they do exist. Is geoengineering, climate engineering, solar radiation management, CCT, cirrus cloud thinning, got a load of words going. Yes, they all exist. And there is a program going on because... Not say that the BBC are not trusting what they say, but if you go onto the governmental website, you can see there have been experiments going on, and you cannot deny that. But I would say this now, by the end of the year, definitely food shortages will happen. The farmers, especially this guy here, I should put the video up, go and check him out, I'll put a link in the description. The weather hasn't been sufficient enough since the beginning of the year. It has been cold, wet and windy, and obviously that's going to affect him. The way he's going to grow his food, because everything's been so wet, especially when it comes to like root vegetables like potatoes and beetroot, stuff like that, especially potatoes, which is a very common veg we use here in England. What will happen is that because the grounds are so saturated, root vegetables will actually rot, and this is what's going to happen. And in fact, this is what the farmers are finding out at the moment. It's drying out a bit, but who knows what's going to happen at the end of the year. Go check this guy's video out because he's explaining, he's going to suffer. We're going to suffer, therefore they're most probably going to import all this fake Chinese food, which is just no good at all. And we're going to really try and analyse the skies on 2024, because apparently, according to Twitter, it's the year of weather modification. I don't know, who knows that? Do you know that? Do you know that, Mr. Pigeon? Did you know there's weather modification going on? Bastard, always gets free food. And he shits all over my bloody roof. So that is my analysis of the harp cloud or billow cloud or gravity wave cloud, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, I hope you enjoy, and yeah, check me out on Investigate with Nick 89 and also on the Cosmic Twilight on YouTube. And I shall see you very soon, and have a really good summer. Well, except for that bloody trail over there. See, I'm getting angry. Shouldn't do that. No, these are happy chemtrail videos. See you very soon, folks. Many thanks for watching, folks, and please do check out my new podcast on Spotify called The White Pill Podcast, which is all about conspiracy theories, spirituality, and yes, a bit of mental health chucked in there as well, because we're 2024, it's all a bit batshit crazy. So please check us out on Spotify at The White Pill Podcast, and please give us a 5-star review. Much appreciated, folks. I'll see you very soon.